Welcome to Twins, Multiples and Moments, the podcast that celebrates the unique journey of raising twins and multiple children. I'm your host Nat, and with my husband Matt, each week we dive into stories, practical advice and insights to support and inspire parents navigating the world of multiples. Whether you're experiencing twins, already have your hands full, or simply curious about the twin experience, this podcast is for you. Join our community as we share the challenges, joys and unforgettable moments that come with parenting multiples.
And we're back.
Hi. So birth, done, tick. Feeling comfortable, tick. A bit of pain, obviously, from cesarean. First bit of advice, just take it easy. Like bed rest, take the meds on time. If you can wean yourself off them as soon as possible, do that as well, because you will need to go to the bathroom at some point, and those things do tend to make that difficult. So yeah, moving on to the stay in the hospital and sharing that experience in NICU as well.
That was very different for me, is this time we didn't do NICU last time. The little fella was in with us straight away. And this time, not having the kids with us and in the room. And well, it was a bit harder this time for us because Nat's alluded to it and we've spoken about it on previous podcasts, is not having that help or family members. Mine are interstate and, it didn't work. So it was a really big one where I was having to sort out the little fella at home, drop him to daycare, come into the hospital, pick him up from daycare, drop him home, come back in. I don't think I've spent so much time in a car during that period, and bouncing between house, hospital, daycare, house, hospital, daycare, over and over and over. It was tiring for me, to say the least, and then trying to get there, and then I felt guilty because you're on your own in the room because you're not getting up and walking around from the C-section straight away.
No.
You're still recovering from, surgery. And our kids are not even in the room. So it was really you going in to feed them, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times we weren't in there for long periods of time either.
They didn't want you in there in NICU unless you needed to be there for feeds and stuff, because as much as they want you to be with your babies, it's a medical area, a high risk medical area. So germs, obviously COVID at the time, but it's also, as Matt got to experience, I was actually lucky. I saw one sort of emergency situation, but I think you saw a couple.
Yeah.
Where, it's babies are being tended to because they have had serious problems at the birth. So yeah, there are medical issues and interventions that have to occur, and so obviously the staff in there don't want people around to A, get in the way, and B, you just don't want to see that sort of stuff either.
No, it's not a nice thing to see. I know there was a couple there that were very confronting. I'm pretty lucky. I have pretty good resilience and whatnot, so it was difficult, but I think the thing that always came back to me was just how great the NICU nurses were.
Amazing.
Absolutely amazing. And knowing that our kids needed to be in there, and I didn't want to rush them getting out of there. I just wanted to make sure that they were good to go. And it is hard to see your kids in that spot with breathing tubes and feeding tubes and all that sort of thing. That's different. I will say that compared to the first one, that was very different, and it was concerning the whole time, but I kept looking at it, and I would encourage everybody is that is the place they need to be, and those people are absolute legends and amazing at what they do. So I did take comfort in the fact that they were so good, attentive, and they should be paid way more than they get as far as I'm concerned.
Way more. They never missed a beat. I never had to ask for anything. They had everything prepared. They had everything there. They were very busy too. There was usually only 2 nurses in there that manned the station. But they didn't miss anything at all, like timing, schedules, feeds. if anything, they were calling us each time on the way to the hospital because unfortunately we didn't get to go home with the twins after my stay in the hospital. But our beautiful daughter was quite the hungry little bubba. And
nothing's changed.
Nothing has changed. She still loves her food, which I fully encourage. But she used to be basically like demanding her feeds at least half an hour before they were due. And in NICU, they keep them on a very tight schedule because I think it's just how they can sort of better manage the whole process because you've got to remember there's only a handful of nurses and there could be up to like 10 babies in there at once. And obviously we had twins, so like one area became double the size. So they like every 3 hours the feed schedule's on time, never late. But our daughter was always 30 minutes hungry before the dinner bell. So there were sometimes we were getting phone calls in the car and they were like, just checking you're on your way, guys. And I could hear my daughter screaming in the background and we'd get there. The nurses were lovely about it, but they would basically be walking up and down the hallways just trying to calm her down because they would and they had to sort of purposely draw the feeds out too because it was a whole schedule thing and I totally understood it, but yeah, no, they were absolute magical humans and they deserve all the credit that they can absolutely get.
And look, I'd say to anyone in that position to celebrate the milestones. I think, when the breathing tubes and the feeding tubes and all that came out, didn't necessarily come out at the same time for both twins. And it was good to celebrate when that happened. And just those little milestones, I think, just brings about a bit of positivity and takes your mind off where it actually is. It was very weird, as Nat said, leaving the hospital. You got extended as well. So I think you got an extra day in there and we still left without the kids.
Yeah, I was in there for 7 nights instead of 6. My obstetrician, she was amazing, magical. If anyone is in the Sydney Southwest region, DM me and I'll give you all her details. I can't recommend her enough. But yeah, she basically came in on my last day to check on me when I was in the ward and I just broke down and I told her, I was still having low blood pressure issues and I probably was mentally not dealing with the fact of going home without the twins as well. And I'd had a whole week, very strange feeling of a human that's just birthed and then there's no babies there. Like it's very, very strange and I can't explain how or why that is. But, everyone was like, all the nurses on the ward, which were lovely, and they were like, oh, take the time to sleep, rest, watch TV, do whatever. But it was almost like my motherly instinct took over and was just like, there's something wrong. And I couldn't relax. I couldn't walk too much as well after the obviously C-section. So there wasn't too much that could take my mind off it. And I found, because you'd go in for every 3 to 4 hours to feed them, and I was breastfeeding. And I found, because the nurses in the first few days would have to wheel me down the hallway, I found 15, 20 minutes before I was due in NICU, I was pressing the nurse button, let them know, when you get a chance and if you can grab the wheelchair and take me down. And as soon as they left, I'd go and get changed and I'd sit on the end of my bed for the next 10, 14 minutes, just on the corner of my bed, just waiting. Very strange feeling. So it's just something that, if you feel that it's normal, it's okay. I think it's just, I don't know, maybe we'll call it human nature, survival instincts or something from our prehistoric years. But very, very odd. But it was good in a way towards the back end of the week because it forced me to walk more after the C-section because I wanted to get down there. I'd get down there early and then I'd sit by the door because they had a waiting area because they don't let you in early either because they just really like to stick to their times in NICU, which I understand. But yeah, I'd just be hobbling around the reception and the reception would see me and we'd have a chat and stuff like that. So but as Matt said, you take the wins where you can and try and make the most of what the situation is. Looking for stylish and comfortable apparel that celebrates the unique bond of twins and multiples? Then check out our online store. Head to our Instagram page and click the link in our bio to see the range of clothing designed specifically for parents and their multiples. Our collection includes matching outfits, t-shirts, baby clothing, and accessories that are both adorable and practical. Plus, we can even make custom designs. Check us out online, and don't forget to DM us if you have any questions or have some insights you'd like to share with us as well.
Yeah, I don't think it helped with me not being there as well. So you're in the room alone a fair bit, and that bouncing between. And
because how many hours were you, like, you would get there at like 10:30 and I think you'd leave by 3.
I'd sort of leave by 3 because our daycare, I had to grab him before 5. And then obviously from daycare to home is nearly an hour. So it was a detour as well. And then sort him out for bed, get him ready, put him down, and then your brother would rock up to stay while I came back at
for the night,
8 o'clock. And then I would generally try and hang around till about 11, midnight, and then come home because I'd have to be here in the morning to get him up, get him dressed, and take him to daycare. And your brother would take off when I got home, and I was sleeping at the house with our oldest. So I was in the car, I reckon at least 4 hours,
4 hours a
maybe
day.
more a day, bouncing around. And it was, it's not fun. But I mean, look, at the end of the day, you've got to do what you've got to do. And reflecting on that, I still somehow don't know how I got through so little sleep. But little did I know that it was going to ramp up, I was getting heaps of sleep at that stage. Didn't feel like it, but
the days. I think I will say I really miss the fact that you weren't able to stay with me overnight, especially. Not just like I didn't have to tend to the twins, right? Because they were in NICU. So that was a blessing. It's pros and cons, right? I suppose I try to look at things in a positive way. It was kind of helpful that they were in NICU and being looked after by the beautiful nurses because you weren't there or able to be there majority of the day or overnight, where I don't know how I would have physically been able to do it without you being there times 2, like after surgery.
I think the benefit of that is the nurses in the private hospital. They're very attentive and they're very helpful. We can't speak of the public experience because it's very different, obviously, and
we haven't gone through it.
We haven't gone through it. So from the private sector, I think that would have still been a little easier for you because there was that nurse and they were quite responsive and they're pretty good. So, but yes, no, I agree. It was challenging.
Yeah. But again, positives from whatever your situation is. I always looked as much as I went and did the morning feed on my own. I always look forward to you coming in, and you'd usually bring me a cup of coffee from the cafe downstairs, and usually sometimes you bring me a treat and stuff like that. So yeah, it was still a lovely experience, but they were just very different experiences compared to our first, and then the twins, and then I sort of opted to it's so funny how the brain works. Like I was on my own in the room. I could only see the twins when I went to feed them, which was, every 3 to 4 hours, and you were only in there for about an hour by the time you did the feed and they let you bath them or something like that. And then the rest of the time I was just in there on my own, and I didn't have visitors. Not that we weren't allowed to, but I don't know. I don't think I could handle it. Like, and everyone's different, but it's just funny how I felt so lonely, but I still didn't want anyone there except you. But then on the second or third last day that we were there, my brother brought my son in, and we got to have a little lunch date with him, and it was just one of the best parts of that whole experience is he came in. I secretly, like a squirrel, had collected all of the cookies and the desserts and the jellies and the custards from all of my meals trays for the last 2 days before that, because I knew he was coming in. So when he came in, I just the table and the side of the room, I had just scattered all this food there. So I think he was very happy and excited to see me, but I think also his attention was very much drawn to all the table full of snacks. But yeah, look, I think you definitely have visitors if you feel comfortable with them. But if you don't feel comfortable, because it is a whole shock to the system, the whole process, you just deal with it how you want to deal with it. And if you feel pressure from others, trying to knock down the door. And when you say twins to some people go crazy. Like they just, I don't know, it almost becomes like you're a circus act because
Yep.
I just twins aren't that rare, but they don't happen all the time in all sort of friend circles. And I had distant family wanting to come and see the twins who'd never met my first son. Like,
remember what I bought? I had to go buy and pick up an item, and we went out. It was like an hour drive, and just random human. And I just said, "Oh, mate, it's been flat out with twins." And he had to come over to the car. He goes, "Can I see him? Because I've never seen twins in my life." Like, so it was, it's a different experience, that's for sure.
Going shopping with, not so much now. I don't think people notice it as much now because we don't really use the double pram, and we've got boy-girl twins as well. Some people tend to put it together, or they'll be like, did you guys have kids really, really close in age? But I remember with the babies and having one pram with two bassinets on it, I can tell you now,
It's a magnet.
It's a magnet. Like, just be prepared when you go shopping to answer the same questions. Yes, they're twins. No, they're fraternal. No, twins don't run in my family. Yes, I'm busy. That's the four answers that you will need to just rinse and repeat. On the back of that, we've actually just launched a clothing range via our Instagram, which I'm actually in the middle of designing a shirt that answers all those questions for mothers out there that just want to sort of have the writing there and just point at it instead of having to answer that question all the time.
Yeah, and look, the only other thing about the NICU journey is the cost. So I think it's expensive. So most people, look, we were in private health, and our private health cover covers that. And if you're in the public system, I don't think you pay much for it. But if you had gone into the private system without private health insurance that covered it, geez, it would be expensive. I think it was roughly $1,200 a day
per child.
Mm-hmm. So if you're in there for a prolonged stay and you're paying that per day per child, and especially with your twins, it gets quite costly. So just something to be mindful for those people there going through this, or pre-planning.
Well, our twins ended up both staying and being released at the same time, just under 2 weeks they were in there. So after my preterm labour stay, because again, that was something that had to be paid for, I was in hospital for 5 or 6 days for that. Then I was in hospital after the C-section for 7 nights. And then the twins were in NICU for 2 weeks. The bill from our private insurer came in at between $50,000 to $80,000, and all we had to pay was our excess, which at the time it was $500. I think we opted for. So if we didn't have private health insurance, that bill was being paid by us. So just be mindful of everything when it comes to if you want to go through the private system. Call up your private health provider, check that they are still partnered with that hospital, because that can change. I know when we were birthing, when we were going into our hospital at the time, they had signs up everywhere saying their partnership with Bupa was coming to an end.
Yeah, that's right.
So it happens, and you should get notified anyway, but just be very mindful of these things. And then when you're about a week, or when you're about a month out from the birth, just call up your provider, your private health provider, and get your twins put onto your private health. They can't put them on until they're born, but they can put notes in the system to say you've called, you've notified, and they may be requiring NICU stay. And just make sure you check everything, because We were one of the lucky ones, right? 2 weeks in NICU is actually quite small or average for twins. There are some that a lot are born at 30 plus weeks. So, it can be 6 to 8 weeks stay in NICU, which that bill can just be absolutely blown out of proportion. So definitely make a few calls and check on those things.
Agreed. All right. I think that's a good one to wrap it up for tonight. And yeah. All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed this one and we'll catch you next time.
Bye.